Hello and welcome to the Mystic Cast, where you join me, Jack Stafford, a student of metaphysics, as I talk to a variety of guests to better understand the teachings given by the Masters through the Aetherius Society, the new cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, incorporating all yogas, Christian mysticism, theosophy, UFOs, and much, much more. Please note this is an independent program, not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today my guest is a shamanic practitioner, Sjoukje Gummels. Hello.
Hello, Jack. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah. Just speaking to you, I'm getting good energy. I'm straight away, I was just
It sounds
before the show, I was just, doing my humdrum stuff, but now I'm here, I'm in the zone.
yes, so am I. It's really
Yeah.
good. Lovely to see you here.
Lovely to see you. So we came into contact through a mutual friend who's
Mhm.
in the Aetherius Society, Viola, from another Italian. I'm in Italy, although I've never actually met her, but we are in contact online and in various groups. So, and she has always got these crazy stories of projecting and meeting people and other. She's really tuned in,
Yeah,
basically.
she
Yeah, in a way that I'm not. I don't have any of these. I've come to the society through the teachings, basically, not through
yeah.
any personal experience. Has she mentioned the Aetherius Society to you or anything?
She has, yes, and she did send me a book through. She mentions that she's very active in that too, and that there are beautiful gatherings. I think
Mhm.
peace gatherings that you all do together. So, with the work that she's explained to me that you do, there is a real beautiful well, when I say similarity, but the awareness and the raising of consciousness and what it is that we can do as individual, but also as a collective, really, or as a community to raise those vibrations. So yeah, she mentions it a lot, and yeah, it's very active as how I perceive it. And yeah, she how do you say rates it really highly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, great. So, well, let's come on to what you do, and because a shamanic practitioner, so I
Mm.
imagine you're in the middle of the jungle. There's ayahuasca. Uh, Nothing like that, apparently.
No, no, actually. I um I was taught by a wonderful teacher, Imelda Elmquist, actually in London. She's Dutch, which was a really wonderful, well, happy coincidence in that respect or fate.
Because you're from Friesland, is that right?
I'm
An
from
island.
Friesland. I'm originally from Holland. I've lived in the UK for 22 years now. But yes, so my teacher, she taught us according to the core shamanism, which is how would I say that, a wording, so to speak, that came together from Michael Harner, who looked at the red thread through all different forms of shamanism. Yeah, I mean, the word shaman comes from the Tungus tribe in Siberia and is also not a word that is necessarily used in different cultures, like what we might class or call a shaman. In Peru, they might say a curandera or a curandera,
Right.
So they have different names for whether it's medicine men and medicine women working in a shamanic way, but it's become that word that if you were to, for instance, say she's a witch, or she's a
Right, yeah.
medicine woman, there is a whole kind of connotation that people hold. There may be judgment around it. So, a shaman or a shamanic practitioner has almost become this umbrella name, but nevertheless, is a person who, as they would say, the translation of it is he or she who sees in the dark. And what that means, it's an individual, a man or a woman who travels, yeah, to the unseen world to gather information, guidance, and or insight from spirit to bring that back into our ordinary reality to be of service to their community or an individual who will need to, who obviously requests some form of healing, bringing back into balance or restoring of power.
Okay, great. So
Mm.
before I before I heard about the Aetherius Society, I imagined spirit world as being because I guess I believe in reincarnation. I mean, that's
Mhm.
from a while because there's just so much evidence for it, so
Yes.
many anecdotal evidence and near-death experiences. So,
Mm. Mhm.
so we have this life between lives, yeah.
Yeah.
But what are we? We're sleeping, or we're just floating around in spirit world. But from what I understand now, from my studies, is that it's a lot more concrete than that. It's another frequency vibration
Mhm.
right here,
Mhm.
just not visible to me because
Mhm.
I don't have the necessary, not developed in that way. And that I understand that each chakra is a realm of consciousness, and so in
Mhm.
each tattvic ray is a realm of consciousness from the sun. Each of the 365 tattvic rays is a realm of consciousness. So there's different
Mhm.
frequencies of
Mhm.
vibration. It's
Mhm.
not just one spirit world. You go to the higher and the lower.
In the middle world. Yeah.
Yeah. So does
Yeah.
that chime with what you've experienced on a
Yeah.
first-hand basis?
Yeah, certainly. When I learned how to journey, which was, so if we're looking at whether it's cosmologies or different cultures, yeah, all of us are ultimately come from an indigenous root, regardless whether we are in Britain, whether we are, South America, wherever it is, there's been indigenous people, original people of the land who were working in very close relationship to nature, whether that was for their need to survive. Yeah. So being in relationship, understanding, honoring, some might say worship, but I really think it was very much more a relationship of reciprocity and of honoring the land, for them in hope, obviously, that the crops were going to be really good or, so for survival skills, but at the same time, being in real close relationship to all of life. Um, and the realms as into like journeying to, the lower world, the middle world and upper world is another red thread that has been very kind of common in different cultures. So, except maybe for a couple like the Norse, they have 9 worlds. Yeah. But a lot of the other ones, you would find that there would be a lower world that people access, or that the shaman or a practitioner would access, in a middle world, which would be pretty similar to the world that we live in. But actually, as you were already pointing out, there is much more, right? Even within our middle world that our seeing eye might not be able to perceive. And of course, then we have got the upper world. So the shamans or a shamanic practitioner would navigate him or herself through almost like a shaman's map, learning how to enter the lower world, learning how to enter or access the information in the middle world, and so also for the upper world to gather information for guidance and healing for the community, or in whichever way they need to be in service. But there definitely is that way, and even a process that people can really learn. Yeah, it is like, as Sandra Ingerman, who's one of my first teachers, mentioned, everybody can journey, everybody can learn to have access to meeting a guide or helping spirit or a power animal. And that is a relationship that then gets to be developed, yeah, like a normal
Mm.
friendship, in which you can then start, gathering information and insight that you might not have been able to gather with your normal state of consciousness.
Wow, it's incredible. I mean, we've got a lot to get through in an hour. I really
Mm.
want to pick your brains because, I speak to a lot of people who do project and it's very difficult to get them to explain it because it's it's difficult to put into words, I imagine. But so you go to the other realms, and
Mhm.
are they? Do they stay geographic? Because each realm we could be under a mountain in
Mhm.
this realm or another realm,
Mhm. Mhm.
or under an ocean.
Mhm.
It's just it's existing at a
Yeah.
different frequency. But
Yeah. So,
do they stay the same? Like, if you project, do you always go? Are you, d- is the geography the same?
well,
Consistent?
so how I would explain it is that, depending, yes. So if you, for instance, so when you start to undertake a journey, so to speak, and initially you are learning, okay, what does my entrance to the lower world looks like? yeah, then that will be the way you navigate safely. Yeah. So if my entrance would be something all different all the time, yeah, that is a possibility. But the way I teach it initially for those who are really new to the work is get set in a way that you start understanding the landscape that you're walking into. So I might say, well, there's an opening in through a guided journey initially. Yeah, for those who are unfamiliar with it, you set an intention. That's the first thing. Your driving force in a journey is an intention. Yeah, so different maybe from meditation, where you might um, kind of really focus on being and being present. Doesn't mean you might not hold an intention for it, but the intention with the journey is to gather information, is to gather insight. It's to learn something that is something that you're learning from guides that you are meeting in non-ordinary reality. So that is the sacred landscape, so to speak.
Mm.
The entrance point is important because when you start learning what it looks like and it changes, it also then has to do with, let's say there's a normally like a hole in the ground that you move through. And I know that it all sounds really kind of like, I wouldn't even say weird, but maybe for like, anyone who kind of says, what do you mean moving through the ground? But when you're undertaking a journey and you want to travel, look at it as a world tree. Yeah. So if you'd have a hollow or like the roots from a tree, your way of moving through the lower world might be I move through the trees all the way to another landscape. But it will be the way you navigate to that place that is really important that is, it doesn't need to be set, but that you're very familiar, that you learn to become very familiar with that route because also it is through that movement, if something, for instance, isn't in alignment, that hey, you know what? Maybe today's not a good day to journey. Yeah. So it is a way that you're starting to understand the nuances. So for me, there's a particular way that I journey to the lower world. That is pretty much the same every time I undertake a journey. Now, when I go into the other world and I meet my ally, my landscape can somewhat change depending on, am I journeying for myself?
Mm.
And sometimes there might be a specific special place for me that I might need healing or whatsoever. And I ask my guide, to maybe receive a healing.
Mm.
That might be in a specific place to me. But if I undertake a journey for another person, then it might mean that my journey to the lower world is the same. But as I enter, I ask my guides to take me to wherever it is that I need to be taken for them to show me what is most needed for my client? What is most needed? What is it? And so the landscape can also, because of our relationship to nature, can then show me, hey, what's going on here?
Mm.
So that part of the landscape can change, but my enter point, the way I enter my journey, whether that is to the upper world or lower world more specifically, that kind of stays the same for me.
Okay. Because when we're dreaming, so
Mhm.
a lot of the time we're projecting, yeah. Because does that ring true with you? When people
As
sort of
as if
they're unconsciously projecting to the to
Yeah,
them.
I did for me, it very much sits within the intention. So a lot of shamans, they dream, and I set an intention before they dream to be shown something.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is like you can, with there's different dream practices anyway, where you may repeat a question a couple of times before you going into dream state to actually be shown some information that is relevant or necessary for you to learn and or to know. So dreaming is huge,
Do you
in
remember all your
shamanic.
dreams? Are you conscious when you dream? When you s
It's very interesting. I only remember my dreams in general when they're really relevant.
Okay.
So, where I'm working in my dream also.
Ah.
And there's certain times that I find that I might have periods like I always know that I'm dreaming,
Hmm.
but I only remember them when there's a real significance for me to remember it, or where there's a message from spirit that I feel, okay, I really need to do something with this. What is it trying to tell me? And then you could, for instance, if you're unsure of what it's trying to tell you, you can take that dream and then undertake a journey on it.
So there's a big difference between because when I'm dreaming, I do stupid things that I wouldn't do in my conscious state. But there's a
Mhm.
big difference between journeying and dreaming. Journeying your
Yes.
conscious you know,
Yes. I mean,
thoughts about you.
yes, but the thing is, don't forget that when we are working shamanically, we can fly. We can
Right, yeah,
shapeshift
yeah.
into another, into a power animal or an ally, or we can become one with an element. So
Right.
sometimes when we perceive our dreams to be kind of a bit like, oh, I'm not sure. Oh my gosh, I was flying.
It's a fuzzy line, is it?
Do you know what I mean? So,
Mm-mm.
so it just depends on how much you are in alignment with understanding and learning how to interpret signs and symbols and messages
Mm,
also. But those are at the same time also, I wouldn't say like maybe it's an art that you can refine
mm,
as long, repetition and consistency in practice will make everything much sharper and will allow you to also, uh, how would I say that, interpret symbolisms in a very different way. So in the beginning, where people are journeying, they might kind of go a bit, yeah, but what does that mean? And what does that mean? And my teachers, all of my teachers have said, journey on it. And I'd be like,
mm.
can you just not interpret it for me? And they would be like, no, journey on it.
Oh, I hate it when
Yeah, but you know what it actually does? What it does and what we have kind of fallen out of is to really trust what comes to us and for us to really learn how to interpret it rather than maybe going, hey, what does that power animal mean in Google? What it means on Google
yeah,
through
yeah.
someone's interpretation doesn't mean that that's
Different,
actually the
yeah.
core message for you as an individual. So the teachings through that is really learning to deepen your personal relationship with your own practice.
Mm,
That doesn't mean that you don't get guidance. It doesn't mean that you don't get support. But when it comes to learning how to interpret, they would say, well, what does that mean for you?
mm,
Can you journey on it? Go and ask what this means. What were you shown? And that is to not to kind of not fall into that away, also giving away of your power to someone else knowing. So for me, it opened up
oh, yeah, yeah, that's simple. Mm,
uh, a lot of, it actually gave me a lot of, would I say peace or sense of belonging and sense of
empowerment, yeah.
being able, yes, and empowerment to actually say, you know what, we all know we've got the key.
Mm,
However, I'm able to access things through this way that I've never been able to access before. And I've been on huge different journeys in, whether it was through Buddhism, through really searching and trying to find myself in ways of what is my practice, what do I find resonance with, what feels right for me. And I always say what's right for me might not be right for you. And everybody has their way of finding their path. For me, learning how to journey, it was like, oh, like it really opened up one beliefs and deep knowings that I already had, but being able to put it in a framework, being able to kind of say, oh, so that's what it is that I do. Or, like it gave me a really wonderful framework to work with and to really also a huge part of the work is shadow work. At the same time, making sure that we don't project, that we don't, our own stuff onto others, that we really become a hollow bond for spirit to move through and to convey information without having our own conditioning, in there. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so I mean, it's very abstract talking about spirit world for us because especially for me, I'm conditioned to the materialistic world. I'm completely you know brainwashed into the thinking this is physical and everything, and so I
Mm.
have a own journey. But once you're there, I imagine it's closer to spirit, it's closer to your true nature, the other realms. So it's actually more natural for us to be there than to be here. Would you say that was?
Um, Yes. I it's a really interesting one because actually what came to mind for me is like for me personally, this has been a real deep journey of remembering. And the remembering comes from the part that one, your imagination. is being able to learn to reconnect to your imagination, your dream world. Yeah. So
Mm.
looking at a child's imagination, when we would just say their imagination, actually they're in constant communication with spirit. And when I say spirit, I mean they talk to trees, they cuddle this, they'll talk to an
Yeah,
animal
yeah, yeah.
as if it is a person in front of them.
Conscious, yeah, yeah,
Right. And so that is almost what we as adults
yeah.
are invited to return back to, because actually it was before the conditioning of saying that doesn't exist, that's not there. This is the way. Social conditioning or maybe cultural conditioning, whatever that is all our doors as a child are open within our mind. Yeah, we perceive it in a completely open, most of the time, pretty non judgmental way. We see all as energy, really.
Mm,
And then there comes the growing up of, maybe so that doesn't exist.
mm,
And actually, even our imagination a lot of the times gets closed down because we've got to get on the hamster wheel, or we've got to kind of fit into a certain way of being. Yet, this practice for me was very much of reminding me in this way of life of actually remembering all of our senses. We are not even aware of actually all of our senses, or our visual senses are really almost like amplified through whether it's all the screens, everything moving really fast. So we put a lot of emphasis on what we need to perceive visually. But spirit or source or life force, whichever naming, whatever your cosmology is, yeah, life force energy speaks to us on an energetic way and through all of our senses, whether there's a deep inner knowing, whether there's a hearing that you are
mm,
connected to, whether there's a sense, a taste, information comes through all of these senses. And so by working shamanically, yeah, or with any other practice, the invitation really is to open up all your senses and your imagination as if it is the imagination of a child. To start to remember where we've actually started to close doors. And
mm,
a lot of the times, that is the one thing that I find that is, even that can really shift people into perceiving, receiving intuition and information in a really different way, and already brings them kind of much closer to their true nature,
mm,
which is one of being in energy flow, but also really in deep connection to all of life, and not fall into that way of separateness. Human nature, we are nature. So shamanism or working with spirit is working with nature, being in direct dialogue, looking outside and looking at the signs and symbols that are always part of that ebb and flow of our own human experiences. What's without is also within. And so the way we perceive life a lot of the times, whether that is through our own condition, is also what is alive within us. So when we learn to, be more in direct relationship with the flow of even the seasons, we start aligning ourselves in a very different way and perceiving, ourselves and the world around us in a very different way.
Oh, so it's like even when you're not projecting, you're still in this
Yeah.
energetic state seeing. Because
Yes.
I know everything is God. I mean, I know this pen is
Yes.
God and this microphone is God, but I don't see it in the way the Matrix, with the ones and the zeros, and I'm not feeling the energy. I'm seeing it as purely as a physical thing
Yeah.
separate from myself. But you're saying it's just we're all just this one.
Yes, we are. And so if you would, for instance, as an example, if I were to, so we do something that is called an almond walk. Yeah. And an almond walk is merely a walk where you set an intention, you go outside and you look for signs and symbols connected to the question that you have. And it is super fun to do. It is really opening yourself up sometimes to things that you haven't noticed in your own surroundings, because you are now attuning yourself to be shown for the universe. Yeah, so even with like cosmic ordering and things like that, for the universe to show you something on the basis of a question that you are setting or an intention that you're setting. The amount of people that have come back to me and said, gosh, I've never even noticed that. And all of a sudden I saw this sign on the wall, walking with the intention, and they were literally writing down everything else that they were seeing. Because I always say, take a notepad with you, because like dreams, you think you're going to remember, and then, oh, what was that again? You know? So literally going on that journey, and that's also a journey. Yeah, it's a journey that I would say in the middle world. So it's not always that you have to, sit in an altered state of consciousness and drum, to get to that through like drumming, singing, dancing, to actually being able to take that ordinary jacket off with all the layers of our daily concerns and step into that, let's say, meditative state to be able to access information. You can go outside and ask nature to show you. And what you'll be seeing is maybe two crows flying in one way, or you overhear, a conversation, or you see something that takes place, and all of it, one way or the other, will have relevance to the question that you've asked, because you are asked to be shown. Plus, you are setting an intention for this walk. So nature will show us, and that can be in an inner city. You don't have to be in the countryside or in the woods. It's actually really fun to do things like that, and to start looking to be almost more conscious and aware of the scene that normally is unseen to us as we walk in our day-to-day life.
So what would you ask? What kind of thing have you? What?
So as for instance, in my experience of an omen walk. So I remember being in Cornwall. I was working with this really wonderful woman. She was doing a course there, introduction to our shamanic practitioners course, and I was assisting her. And we were working with earth medicine. And so we were guided to say, okay, what is needed? So what is needed? So let's say we bring it, what does the collective really need to be more aware of? So my journey started, and I'm walking, and I see, in this case, two crows kind of flying. So I'm like looking, going, okay, two crows flying. Okay, so that's two, maybe masculine, feminine. You kind of like feel into a little bit until things unfold. And then I heard like running water, and I was like, okay, flow. Okay, so collaboration, teamwork, doing things for the collective could really mean that on our own, that's one, but doing things together will move things forward. And then the funny thing was, I was walking around the corner, and this was around the December period, and this gentleman literally walks out and he says, hey, love, give me a hand. And it was about like putting all these lights up. And you kind of go, well, what does that have anything to do with? But again, someone asking for support. Yeah. So we're looking at what needs to be done for the earth. I will pass to see this, this symbol basically stating, pick up your SHIT. And I was like, okay, in order to be more aware, we need to work together. We need to make sure we clean up. And then it was another big sign that walked, like literally, these things are moving like that, which said the Labour Party. So there were obviously something going on, but Labour also means work. It takes work, to stand together to make changes, to be
Wow, that's
willing
a great
to
example.
support someone else. Yeah, who's there. So is there a willingness to support your community, even if you don't know them? Is there a way that those flying, the crows, whether it is a meeting of the sacred feminine, the sacred masculine, or again, that working together and in flow of that water, picking up your own SHIT, right? To make sure that you do your own personal cleaning up, and it takes work. It doesn't just come like that. So in that journey, as a messaging, you can start kind of putting together these pieces and kind of go, wow, isn't that a beautiful insight?
I'm a real believer in that. In finding the right questions is the secret to success, and the secret to, if you, because answers are everywhere,
Yes,
just
I agree.
hitting you in the head all the time. But
Mhm.
really knowing the right question to ask. So yeah.
Yeah, and that is always, I think, probably that would have been the most trickiest thing, is finding the right questions, because, you know, journeying is also, maybe different to meditation, where people might meditate every morning. I would journey if there's a need for me to journey. And that
Yeah,
would
I wanted to
mean,
ask you how many times you, because if I was doing, I'd be doing all the time, or did you in the early days? Did you?
well, when I say in the early days, sometimes you journey more than others. When I work one to one with people, so I do one to one sessions,
Hmm.
I have to undertake a diagnostic journey to gather guidance as to what this person needs, what processes we will be working with. That doesn't come necessarily through my own conscious mind. That comes from me asking the guidance from my helping and compassionate allies and or spirits. So they will show me what is needed for my client that, has brought something.
And is it like a real conversation? I mean, you taking notes? I mean, or is it?
Yeah.
Re- It's a
Yeah.
real just.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I literally undertake the journey, and then when I come out of the journey, I take some notes. Sometimes it can be a case that something comes up that I feel is really pressing for me to remember to say to my client. Then I might literally go whoop whoop in, write it down, and go drop back into the journey to see if there's anything else that is needed. But that is an essential part of our one-to-one sessions. Is I do a diagnostic journey prior to me seeing a client to make sure that that which is necessary or needs to be in place, or maybe I need to gather for the individual, or in my preparation work, that all of that is done prior to me seeing someone.
Mhm.
Um, and so my journey work with my clients, yes, I have to do that. If there's something that, if for instance, I feel I might need some personal guidance on something that is arising, then I will journey for personal guidance for myself. If there's healing that's needed, then I journey for that also. But there's also a part of, when you're in a friendship, in any
Mm.
relationship, you're building relationships. So you don't only just want to show up when you need something. You also want to show up and dance
Mm.
and be in relationship and bring an offering. And that offering can be song. It can be a song that you're singing. It can be drumming that you do to really kind of like offer your gratitude for the guidance that you are receiving. Yeah, within mind of any relationship takes time, takes effort in regards to maintaining a good relationship.
Well, I really want to get into asking you about how you do it, but I'm going to save that right to the end, just
Mhm,
because that's obviously the what everyone wants to know. But I'll just keep that hanging in the air for a bit.
mhm,
But
mhm.
but when you project, is time different? I know on the, I suppose, to be in the teachings, they say that on the highest and the lowest, it gets time is longer. So you project. Have you had that experience too?
Yeah, I mean, time, to be really honest with you, so we work outside of time. That's how we kind of say it. So, for instance, if
Okay.
I were to do sessions with people and they can't be there within that same time frame, let's say I do a moon circle, which I run, and people can't be there. We include people within the circle, even though they might access the recording outside of time, yet they are energetically included. So time does work in a different way, but as to state, sometimes you undertake a journey and you might feel like, oh my gosh, I've been here for like half an hour and it's only been about 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So that the way we perceive time, and sometimes you do a journey and it literally can be not more than 3, 4 minutes. And yet it feels like the vast amount of information that you would have gathered is enough to really do your session. Yeah.
Mm.
So time definitely works differently, but we work outside of time. So um that means that if your intention is to include a group of people, or your intention is to work in a certain way, but you cannot physically be there, then you can do the work outside of time and yet energetically still be included and contribute.
Wow. And so do you go, are the higher realms nicer, and have you been to the lowest realms? Are they as dark and as torturous places as?
Not at all.
No?
That's the thing. No, the lower world is fantastic. It's not, you see, the thing is the idea we have, let's say through Christianity and maybe some other religions, is that the lower world is representative of hell. Yeah, so that's kind of what we know. The lower world must be the really low energy of something. But actually, I love journeying to the lower world. It's very vibrant. It's absolutely beautiful. For me, there is none of the worlds are dark. They are different
What do you
in.
mean physically, like when the ones you're going into the ground?
Yeah, no. So physically, yes, you might move through, for instance, like, so let's say you move
Physically in a projected
through a
state?
cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, you move through a cave that you kind of, but it can be a crystalline cave. Yeah, so it is whatever kind of, it doesn't mean it has to really be a deep, dark place that you're moving through. But the meaning of moving through the lower world is, as we were looking at the world tree, you have the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world, which gives you a way to navigate and to learn, a way of accessing these different points. So it's more a way that we learn to access different points. So if you were to, for instance, move to the upper world, and you can imagine being on the highest branch and then being lifted by a cloud, so to speak, or taken by a bird to lift you to a different realm, or whichever way it presents to you, that is the moving up. And so what I find in the upper world, and that can differ, and that is also very personal, but what has been quite a commonality is that, you might connect to, whether it's in more of an angelic realm, mythical creatures, it can be ascended masters, it can be ancestors, it can be gods and goddesses, but what they offer is a higher perspective on a situation. They could kind of give you that different outlook on certain things. And if you're looking at, for instance, moving that with the bird and bird's vision, it's also a really deep, different kind of wisdom that houses there.
Mm. Yeah, ascended masters. I mean, that does fits with the teachings of the Aetherius Society,
Uh-huh.
the Great White Brotherhood,
Uh-huh.
the great spiritual hierarchy of Earth. But I think
Mhm.
with the lower realms, it's definitely that maybe you haven't been down there because it is the Dr. King. He came with a mission for. He's the master of the Aetherius Society, and they always all these masters like Jesus or um, the Buddha. They come with a main mission, like the
Mhm.
headline mission,
Uh-huh.
to bring teaching and wisdom. And so Dr. King, he was a medium, but he was not a trance medium. He
Mhm.
would he would raise Kundalini up all the way to the ground chakra and then
Mhm.
receive. It was a channel for cosmic intelligences, not just the ascended masters.
Mhm.
So he had to be a very high level, but his main mission was to transmute the lower astral realms, where
Mm. Mhm.
where the most darkest intelligences have existed for
Mhm.
eons. And he,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
together with the six adepts, he
Mhm.
transmuted the intelligence that was known as Satan and
Mhm.
fought the apocalypse that was
Mhm.
predicted in the Bible and transmuted. So it was a really dark, dark place.
Yeah, and so in that respect, the lower world does not represent that. The
Oh, okay.
lower world in that relationship would be more, you may connect to power animals. And it doesn't mean that an ascended master cannot show up in the lower world also. Yeah. When someone works more with it. But in the way of how I'm teaching it is like, in the lower world, you may go there for personal healing. You may
Right.
go there to deal with certain situations that are pressing for you personally. It could be part of your past. It can be a power loss, soul loss. Yeah, certain parts of ourselves that we are, because, working shamanically is very much about restoring power, restoring your energy, calling back home the parts of you that throughout your life, maybe throughout conditioning, throughout certain situations that have happened, that you've experienced a loss of power, that you then want to be, maybe we can't get that back ourselves. Yeah, maybe that's
Mm.
hard. So then you work with a practitioner of whichever kind that does this type of work, so to speak, that can support you in calling back those parts of yourself. And that can be inner child work. Yeah, that could be all these different things. But the lower world is certainly not a place of doom
Mm.
in the sense of, if you were to look at the world tree and the roots, a lot of people struggle, sometimes initially, because of the whole understanding of heaven and
Yeah.
hell.
Right.
But that is not how that works within this work.
Okay. So maybe you're projecting to one realm where you have the different aspects. So maybe
Yeah,
we
and
could.
it's important because the thing is, it's a really vibrant and beautiful place. Like for me, it's probably where most of my journeys take place.
Hmm,
I go to the lower world to gather information, and you build a relationship with your guide there. That is for me feels I get a lot of practical advice, or information on, for instance, how when I work with my clients, and occasionally, or not even occasionally, depending on what needs to come forth. I am then either sometimes guided to then move up to the upper world to get a different perspective or to look at, gather wisdom that is, of a different quality that can support that individual. But the worlds, all of them, are to me very beautiful places to be. They hold a different way of accessing information.
okay. All right. So here's the $1 million question. And so, how do we get
So that's where, people come and learn how to do an introduction to shamanic journeying.
there?
So
Okay.
the vehicle a lot of the times to getting into a shamanic state of consciousness, as Michael Harner would say it, but it's more an altered state of consciousness, is through the means of a drum. Yeah.
A
Um,
drop.
through,
Well, many
sorry.
psychedelics, but I guess many people.
Yeah, and that's the way. But the
Well,
thing is, this is a really interesting part. Sorry, I've gone a little bit blurry here. I'm just trying to. Um, the so
so this is a
I don't
completely,
use
yeah.
I don't use psychedelics
That's a
at all.
much better way. I don't think. I don't condone. I don't think it doesn't chime with what my, because you lose control. No, you're a kind of.
Well, the
uh,
thing is, I think personally that there's a place for all of it, but it depends on how that space is being held. And if you are working with a plant medicine, you one need to be really informed and be in relationship with that plant medicine because remember, everything is alive. And a plant medicine is not just a medicine, it's a spirit.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
it is, it's a being. Yeah. So
Yeah.
and then you need to be really sure that that space is held and facilitated with someone who really is in right relationship with that. So not only, you know, are you
Have you also journeyed with psychedelics yourself, or is it
No,
you've only
no,
had a
I
part?
haven't.
Yeah.
No, I've not journeyed with psychedelics because, the way I was told, my teacher,
Yeah.
she said to me, and I don't judge any of it. It's just how I was told. She said that she could access everything she needs to access without anything, with
Yeah.
any
Sound
substances
good to
needed.
me. Yeah.
And so uh, to gather the information that I've been able to gather, through the guidance of my, helping spirits has been enough for me, not to necessarily journey with psychedelics. Let me put it that way.
Sure.
But I know people who work with psychedelics in a really, hold a lot of integrity around it, and there's beautiful, the medicine of plants is a really beautiful way of
Mm.
working with, but it's not a necessity to access information and or journey. Let me put it that way.
Well, the yogis don't use it. I mean, you control your mind,
Yeah,
and you leave the body, and you go,
yeah.
you sit yourself, you cross in Padvasana, you give up freedom, and
Uh,
you give up the free will, and in return you have
yeah,
freedom to travel, even to other worlds. So
yeah.
yeah.
But basically, what I do
Okay.
is I drum. So
Okay.
the drumming or rattling or sometimes singing, in which I open sacred space. But also when I drum, it brings your brain waves into a theta state, which means everything kind of slows down. Yeah, you kind of start like the brain waves. You hit this altered state of consciousness, which allows you to to almost take off that
Mm.
ordinary jacket off with doing the shopping list and the to-do lists and all of that stuff. Which, by the way, for children, when they journey, they get there like that.
I believe you. Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. They'll probably be like 2 minutes in, they kind of go, I've done my journey already, gathered all the information, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm still taking my coat off. to actually be there and kind of like focus on my breathing and centering myself. It takes sometimes longer for us as adults. Kids are there in no time, but I
And do you
use
lose control of the physical when you project? Or do
no,
you? No.
no,
Okay.
no. Because the one thing that's really important to understand when you are journeying, you're stepping into your journey with all your senses wide open. You are not there to lose anything. And that's a really important thing. You need to be grounded. You need to make sure that you practice sacred self care, that you look after yourself, because ultimately we are here, spiritual beings in a human body, in a
The
physical
robot.
manifestation, you know, and and the whole part of that is you want to be able to look after this. So there's no I'm losing myself, because you want to be with one foot in the reality and stepping with one foot in non-ordinary reality. So if we were to say that control, or basically that way of being able to kind of say, I can pick up from non-ordinary reality and and not even translate, but make the information to good use in ordinary reality. And that's what this is about. It's not about spending time in spirit world and doing that and then not being able to do anything with the information. It is about what is the information, the insight and the guidance that I have received from spirit, from source, from whatever, like whomever, from angels. I'm just giving you different namings that people might have. What can I do with that information to really bring it into action? And that's how we're making changes. It has to have some form of practical use, or a way that we can transfer that information into something that will have a form of manifestation, even if it is, because it's where we have to do it.
Hmm.
Where we have need to bring things to an embodied practice.
Right.
So having information and knowledge that's just sitting there
Mm.
ends up being information that's just sitting there. And so that's where journeying with an intention, either for someone or for community or for the larger community in which I include nature, how can I be of service? Okay, so what am I now going to do with the information I gathered? What action? So there is always an action that kind of, which is always the encouragement I give my students or my clients is, okay, how can we now work with this so that you can really create the shifts that you want to be making in your life? So that you can really work with what has presented itself and actually really work with the guidance that you've been getting, but to bring it into practice, to do something with it, because that's what we really want.
That's beautiful. These are our natural inherent abilities.
Yeah.
We're just not using our birthright. And this is
Mm.
it's people like yourself doing such vital work to reconnect us to ourselves, basically.
Yeah, it's for me, it's very much about, it's been a journey for myself of coming home to myself, to deeper understanding myself, to have a better way of practicing sacred self care, to, all of these things have been part of my own journey because I was looking for healing. I was looking for resolve. I was looking to feel like a sense of belonging. It is through my own personal healing journey that I've come to this point. And one part for me is because it's brought me home to myself. That's why I want to share the work in supporting others to come home to themselves and give them the tools to really continue for them to strengthen their inner knowing, their truth cord, and create more expansion in their own life for themselves, and ultimately emanate that out and transmute and transfigure, for the world at large, because it's so needed.
Yeah, I mean, see from the testimonials on your website, people have, and also from friends I've heard that you're doing incredible work, and yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
So how can people contact you then if people want to? It's best to do a course, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a course coming up in April, which I believe is, let me just have a really quick look because I just looked it up. Yeah, so the 16th of April, I've got an introduction to shamanic journeying coming up, which is a 5-week course for people to learn how to journey.
And is that
Um,
online or
that's an online course. Yes,
okay.
that's an online course. I also will have an in-person course coming up in September, which will be in the Folkestone area. That's where I live in Kent, in the UK. Information around that will be coming up on my website very soon, including the 16th of April. But that will be that's one way. Otherwise, people can literally go to my website, www.threadsofhealing.co.uk, whether they want to have some more information, whether they, I do moon circles also. So there's many ways that people can contact me, whether it's through social media or through my website, really, to
Mhm.
learn more about the work. And if there's any questions, really, in whichever way I can be of assistance.
Yeah, because I don't this episode stays online for a long time, and I don't think it'll come out until April, so, yeah,
Mhm.
best people sign up. I see you have a mailing list, people can sign up to that,
Yeah.
and because, you're doing so many different things. I see there's sample tracks on your website, guided meditation.
Yes, yes, we do. That's created by my husband and myself. I've got a very talented husband
Nice.
who's doing music and voice movement therapy work, and so we've teamed up and actually created some really wonderful meditations, which are also on Insight Timer,
Mm,
which we've really loved doing. And yeah, the guided journeys or the guided meditations have also allowed people to start getting a little bit used to the language use. Sometimes language use can be a barrier for
mhm.
people also if they're unfamiliar.
Yeah,
Um, but um, and and it gives people a little bit of an idea as to whether I'm the right person for them. But even if not, I would always kind of say, if you're looking for someone, whether it's someone near to you, then I'm also very, very happy to refer you through to someone else who might be in your area, or because it's beautiful work.
do you also go to festivals or healing festivals?
I haven't really as yet. I haven't as yet. I think also that the whole period with COVID, when that was happening, I really started to expand from that time onwards with a lot of the guided journeys that I ended up doing online. Um, and sorry, I don't know why it's gone blurry again, but yeah, so the guided journeys that I was doing online, which is something that I never thought I would, because I thought,
Mm.
well, how are people going to really
Yeah,
connect?
yeah.
But actually, people really connected, and there was a real call for it. And that's how I actually met Viola. Literally
Huh.
from doing a guided journey or guided meditation that I was offering, and we stayed in contact ever since. So, which has been a really beautiful and wonderful journey, to meet her, and and a developing friendship at the same time. But that's really how that started. So festivals were not necessarily, haven't been on the card, but I have started to look at some.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just with the drum circles, I mean,
Oh, gorgeous! Yeah.
yeah, I love those. And how you have I see on your website you have a big drum. It's like a tambourine. Do you just play it rhythmically, or is there a particular style you have to do, or is it just what suits you? Or
Do you want me to play a little bit?
oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I hope she's, because Sherman, oh, sorry, I'm just kind of trying to. Okay. So this is my drum.
Wow, that was very nice. Yeah.
There,
I can really see how that would, even just getting through my headphones there was
yeah.
just. But imagine if you're in a room, I can see how that can take you. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and it is a vehicle through the drumming, even with the rattling. There is the rhythm in that really calms down that nervous system. It calms down, it brings you almost more into an alignment of calm. And it's from that place of calm that we can then open ourselves up to access different information or even insights within our own within our own consciousness. Things can drop in a different way when we feel whether it is more grounded or whether we feel that there is a form of even taking that moment for yourself. That's what I always say. Sometimes taking that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes for yourself to focus on your breath, to maybe listen to a drum track, just to calm yourself, allows you to in life come from a place of responding rather than reacting. And even that is a very different way of being. And so the drum really does that. That theta state allows us to, for a moment, breathe, for a moment, be rather than do, for a moment to open ourselves up to all our senses, really.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I keep meaning to do. Like go to the beach and have a bonfire, and you know, have a drum would like that would be wonderful. But you just turn on Netflix instead and just just vegetate. I've really we've got to steer ourselves in the direction of practices like that, and
Mm.
it's so beautiful once it's like a massage, like a foot massage, giving your partner a foot massage. Just we're getting a bit off topic here, but yes, the kind of thing that I keep meaning to do, but I've
Yeah,
got my to-do list.
yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It is really everything I kind of say, and that's the same that comes back over and over again. It is, when, you know, what empowers you when you do it, whether
Mm,
that is taking that moment out and having that foot massage, having that walk, or what is empowering for you or what is disempowering for you. And sometimes sitting in front of the telly and watching a really good show or watching Netflix can be the thing that you need in that moment, right?
mm,
But there's always also those times where you kind of go, actually, what would really nourish me right now?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
When you then do it, you think, gosh, I don't understand why I'm not doing this more often. So it's almost putting those things in your diary that almost don't allow you to be able to come out of it. And you've got
mm,
to kind of do it so that you start creating a sacred self-care, as I'd like to say it, practice for yourself,
mm,
right? Committed to something. You're going to show up. You maybe have paid for to go to a drum circle if that's the case. And you go and yeah, I've got that date in the book. So it's we almost got to cheat ourselves sometimes rather than giving ourselves all the space because life gets really busy, life gets really hectic. But then sometimes we forget that actually the thing that really inspires us and re-energizes us is that the one thing that we might not do.
mm. That's why you go to festivals, is because
Yeah.
it raises your, because we're the average. I mean, the people around us are not. I mean, you obviously have more friends like yourself, but here, I'm in the south of Italy here, and nobody's into this kind of stuff, and so I kind of wallow around. So, but just speaking to you in this hour has really picked me up, and I need to do these more of these practices, and because yeah, going for a better walk barefoot in nature is, yeah, you go out, but having a drum there would be just like that's kind of instant as well. So
But the amazingness with your feet on the earth is you are being recharged immediately.
yeah.
Earth literally on the bottom of your feet is the I think it's called the wellspring of life.
Hmm.
And your body literally absorbs the earth's energy through that. If you are standing with your feet on the earth, you get a natural recharge just there.
Mm,
And that's why people kind of say, gosh, like for instance, in summer, they've been on holiday. I feel so amazing. It's not just the sun, it's your connection to the earth 9 out of 10 times
mm,
because you're probably out in nature more and merely being in nature is healing for you. When you've been really stressed out or maybe there's a lot going on and you go to a place in nature, you see the ocean and you go, oh, and everything just drops off you.
yeah.
That is the effect of nature. And so the more we can surround ourselves in natural environments, the more we actually, even our energy field expands when we are there. In inner cities, we tend to be more like this because there's so much we have to deal with.
Mm,
So our energy field becomes tighter around us. But in nature, it breathes, it opens up. And that's a natural, you know, the natural state of being when you're in nature.
yeah.
And so walking barefoot is phenomenal. Of course, if you can bring a drum or even a rental, and a rental is made super easy. You get a jar, you put some popcorn in it, and you
Uh,
shake it. And
really?
and you're like this, or like little
Huh.
peas or rice, and you do this, and literally even the sonicness of that, you will literally calm down.
Hmm. Barefoot shaking. Okay.
Barefoot shaking. There you go. I like that. Let's go barefoot shaking on an almond walk.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, yeah. Doing that as well. Okay. Well, I've got another good to-do list, but I know these things are all good for me. But this has been amazing. I've really had a wonderful time chatting to
Oh,
you.
me too. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me over here. It's been a real joy.
No problem. And it's threadsofhealing.co.uk. People can
Correct.
go and contact you in person or online. And
Absolutely.
yeah, well, wonderful. Well, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And you. Thank you for sharing the love on all these wonderful topics that you're sharing with the world and with the collective. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for having me here, Jack.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.